It's been a long time, and Professor Williams didn't see fit to follow it up with me, but it did sound like an expert Hollywood car happening when her car was wrecked, and her daughter and her walked out. Her foot was injured. And I suspected Hollywood, not, but a short while later got a Clint Eastwood smoking gun autograph in the mail. Clint Eastwood smoking gun autograph in the mail. Brand new car, totally wrecked. There's ways of, connecting the mind stuff that might have been at work. Pawn shop brokers were using me as a plaything because of my father's connection to the San Jacinto. And they had the offices of Peter Gabriel working with them on it. And he called Rose a sweet little princess. And they made a pretty big deal out of the fact that she made love to me. So the wrecking of the vehicle, they had Clint Eastwood dancing with Princess Diana and stuff. And Roger Waters tries to use Princess Diana as a vengeful spirit. They knocked off JFK Jr. about it and stuff. But really, the people who Ringo Starr was working with and encouraging were behind that. The labor union, the NAACP, had all said, Curry's very valuable, but it will never be to himself. That's Pittsburgh Union Mafia announced amongst themselves in the museum heist union. And they made me functionally disabled, more disabled than I was, so that I would be dependent on social services so they could hold me in custody. And they claimed that I, went over their heads and so on. But what I was trying to do was find somebody who wasn't involved in the crime, organized crime of what was happening, and I eventually realized that it was a constitutional overthrow from SCOTUS. But that's the hard thing to try to deal with. And they've left me somewhat alone to figure out what happened. But, it's difficult because they kill bystanders. And they play off my words for their inspiration. But Ringo Starr had come in and said, Crairy's going to be subordinate to the K factor automobile thefts. And the pawnbrokers went around and talked to the people whose cars were used, donated to the movie moguls who kidnapped and tortured me in what they claimed were stolen cars. So they could say that I was hiding from my mother, that a stolen car was involved. The pawnbrokers never explained that the reason we moved was to protect I insisted on moving was as much to protect my mother as to protect myself. And I had to protect my mother by not telling her. Well, I thought it was just me. That's how they made it sound. So I got myself out of there. But Ringo Starr mongered, the Beatle was stolen. So he started whipping up hysteria among the garage rockers, Triangle Messenger Service. Eric Slagle was one of these guys. And he was the one who asked me if I ever played royalty. And his girlfriend's cousin was in the New Jersey Secret Service. So they're playing a relay station, the Triangle Messenger, for Murder Ball and Pussy Ball, and the other games that Joe Biden is so fond of from his seat as Commander-in-Chief. And so it's possible that Shirley's car was wrecked as a symbol of their abstract hostility for the fact that this girl they called a sweet little princess on the record promoting her entrapment of me in a marriage act with every intention to attack me in the implant that they put in my neurologically implanted was this criminally insane syndicate were pointing the fingers at me after doing these dirty deals. So, it's typical of Roger. Now, who do I think bumped off Princess Diana? Well, I don't really know. I mean, it looked like they used something like what was used, a remote that was used to lock up John Heinz's landing gear. So that's the start. Who has that? Was it one person or both sides? It was one person. Then they conveniently killed Heinz to kill Princess Diana. And Yoko Ono and Michael Reagan both have favorite objectives. Michael Reagan wants to get to his favorite scene somewhere. And Yoko Ono wants children to be forced to look at the Hustler magazine bludgeon image, Soldier of Fortune magazine, bludgeon image. She likes to hear how when these perverts showed it to me and I was in trauma, they said that somebody could take a dookie in the cavity and like a beetle crawled out of it or something. This is the mind at work behind Carbonell's offices. The truly degrading, pathological Pittsburgh psychotic is what's at work. And Roger Waters is one of them. That's why they draw this line saying Pittsburgh and Liverpool are as one. And they implanted this garbage and put me through trauma and then extruded things that they played off of. So they could say, like, if I wanted to speculate in the way they speculate, I could say Waters killed Princess Di so that he would have a barrier of blood between me and Midori Goto, which was his higher union objective. And that would make Oz rule. But when you look at Kerry Kennedy's friendship with Alec Baldwin, your eyes should roll because he puts B as for Burston and Banderas, which is a Jewish Nazi partnership, which Gail Burston and Will Zell were also. Zelensky is like Zell, Wispensky, and Lenin. It's a contraction of them. So is Roger Waters psychotic enough to do that? Well, yes, he is psychotic enough. Is that what I believe? No, I'm not going to lower myself to their level. Roger Waters sits there. I'll tell you what Roger Waters does. He does like this. Queer wall. He killed Princess Diana. That's what he does. And he tells that to everybody. And they all go, we know he did. We know he did. I'm not that low. I would never do that. So I have to tell you quite honestly, no, I don't think Roger Waters killed Princess Diana. But it would make sense. It would certainly make sense in his psychopathic maelstrom. It would certainly make sense. But no, that's not what I think happened. My impression was that the U.S. Secret Service did it to avenge John Heinz. At least that's the way it looked. But you can't really tell appearances from that sort of thing, you know. Now, what I thought at first was what I said to Ray, was that the plague masks did it. But it didn't make sense, you see. I know Diamond Ghost ended up being behind 911 and stuff. But I also knew the Mount Desert Island proved that AIDS was an attack. But, see, killing John Heinz didn't do any favors to my research investigation. What killing John Heinz did was make people who were concerned, like the honors department in school was concerned. They could see the pattern and wondered, what was I doing in a place called Mount Desert Island now? Jeremy Shellhates from the medical library says, what do you mean you were at the Jackson Immunogenic Laboratories when it burned down? And there were people who were somewhat stunned that I was coming back from Mount Desert Island at all, much less with testimony and evidence like I have. And what killing John Heinz did was it threw that whole thing out. All those Pennsylvania Masons said, well, to hell with Mount Desert Island and Queerball. We've got to avenge this insult to the United States. And that's what it looks like what happened to me. So, you know, what they're trying to do is play celebrity war games where the celebrity is all important. Because they put Lenin ahead of, they said Lenin is a tragedy and one size fits all about everybody else, man. You know, which is a very strange thing for them to be doing. But, you know, what happens is they say, the reason why Reuters is hot-wiring into my gestalt with this soliloquy, which is old news to the people who have researched and followed the whole thing. It may come over as scandalous or sensational or frightening, but it's really very, very old news. The reason why he's doing that now is because I've cracked the code of Lenin's mastermind behind the whole operation. And they want to say you're insulting the memory of Lenin and Princess Diana. You know, and you're supposed to kowtow to these people and so on. And the truth is I absolutely hate them. Because in whenever they claim they found the letters, I mean, Penis Gabriel was ready to kick the football. I mean, he didn't have to look at the letters to get the idea. He already knew what they contained and was ready to kick the football. But let's say that they found them when they make it look like they could say they found them, which was like the early half of 1980, around 84, about the time my dad was poisoned, which is, you don't get any credibility for that, Queerball. You don't get freedom of speech for that, you know, because their connection to me and Princess Diana is a fluke remark that I made to Ray Geiger in a car that shouldn't have been being monitored. And he was infuriated when he heard the Princess Diana killed. So, you know, they're going to extrapolate that Ray Geiger got killed. And that's the way that's their mania. That's how they operate. And they're Masons. They must avenge the symbol. They're painting of pictures and this stuff. But the reason why I said that was because I suspected that plague masks had struck down John Heinz because, I mean, when you hear something like that, no matter who you are, it bothers you. You know, so, but they're going to point the fingers at me. So you did it because you're a jinx. You made me twist my ankle is what they would always say. You made me twist my ankle. So they're psychopaths. I mean, they're trying to secure dominion by gaining the upper hand. wrote something about John. John read the good book, sealed his fate, or something like this, right? Because Mark and sent it to a judge in Allegheny County. And no sooner did the judge read it, but John was killed, and there was a witness from Prabanic who was up on Mount Desert Island. So my current operating feeling about John Heinz is that he was killed to cover the tracks of Mount Desert Island, not to... See, that's what's really tricky about the Slipknot, was I had believed that Diamanda Gaulis was actually trying to help the AIDS victims. But I now know that she was studying immunogenetics in the 70s, and that she was there with the anthrax, which was a symbol for the COVID and so on. So, we're dealing with a criminally insane syndicate that put together the messianic image of John Lennon for false witness purposes. It's not the truth. John Lennon was mastermind behind this stuff. In other words, Diamanda Gaulis was not protecting or standing up for the AIDS victims. She was behind AIDS with her cult. And her namesake, Dia, called me on December 8th, 1980, when I was with the dude who has fantasies of getting his ankle twisted. Because these people are berserkers. And they want to run the society around us into the ground so that they can go around shooting up the town with Clint Eastwood at the helm. So I didn't really get into it very much with Shirley. I said it looked like a professional, sounds like a professional Hollywood job. And shortly after that, got a autograph picture from Clint Eastwood, Gunsmoke autograph, So, but this is the sort of thing that people should be finished with. They should put a stop to it. They should say, Curry's right. John Lennon's mechanism is a suspicious one that's been in the making for a long time. This is some kind of Euro-royal big move to position America for a control tower over them. And that's what's going on. Whatever the control tower was is what killed Heinz. And maybe Princess Diana, too. So, I didn't know about Trumpy Toon in those days. But he's the one who obviously had the flagrants to bring in a hottie from Milan, of all places. His wife is from Milan, I think. So, they were playing pussy ball and saying, oh, Jimmy wanted some. And that sounds like Pittsburgh, And then they jack up the value of my art, said the Masons can steal it and say, oh, well, we're helping poor people, robbing me. They robbed me of my childhood. They robbed me of my life, and now they're trying to rob me of my right to self-representation. No, I had nothing to do with the murder of Princess Diana. No, I had nothing to do with the murder of John Heinz. Nothing to do with the murder of John Lennon, if that happened, which I don't believe did. I think it was a fake. So, when somebody comes and says, oh, he's a jinx, we've got to get even with him because he's spreading rumors. Keep in mind that the first time I heard that I was spreading rumors was when I reported John Schulman. And he has since been arrested for a $6 million museum heist. The people who are to blame for this are the people who are doing it, not the people who aren't doing it. And if you can't make that connection in your cerebellum, then you should be out of a job at the police department. The people who did it are the ones who are to blame. The people who did not do it are not the ones to blame. You understand the difference? There really is one. You can take a Dixie cup out of the dispenser and put it back into the top. And you can continue indefinitely. You will never run out of cups. Isn't that mysterious? Yeah, that's mysterious, man.